edition, the kick-ass podcast that make you want to listen. The place where boxing fans and fighters rejoice. Thumbs up for Richie, you're listening to The Fighter's Voice.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Richard Ortiz of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. We're going to be talking about some upcoming matchups. We're going to be talking about future fights, past fights, dream fights, and we're not just going to do it with just anybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do it with many have said is the GOAT of boxing. The Hall of Famer, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Jack REISS. Welcome to The Fighter's Voice, sir.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
It's easy when there's so many awards given out and so many just doors that are opened and doors that you crash through because of your excellence when it comes to the sport of boxing. Jack, I've watched you from your smallest fights to your pay-per-view fights, and the intensity is 110% the same. Tell us, is there a transition or you treat every fight as such?
I take every single fight I do as serious because it's really important to that fighter, whether it's a 4-rounder or a world championship fight. It's the most serious thing for that guy and his family. So I definitely pay attention and prepare myself when I step in that ring. The preparation, though, for a world championship fight is greater than for a 4-rounder. On the 4-rounders, 6-rounders, club shows, I really don't know who I'm reffing until I show up a lot of the times. So I prepare myself to be in the ring. But with the championship fights, they usually assign us 3 weeks or so out. So I get a chance to look at film on both fighters, look at their tendencies, take corrective action in the dressing room before we go out into the ring. So it's a little bit more of a preparation, but my seriousness in getting myself in the zone. So when I step in that ring, I'm ready for anything in the first second is the same intensity.
Jack, I've always wanted to ask a referee this, and I almost know the answer to it, but I want to let you answer this. How much physical preparation? Because you have to be fit. You're moving on your toes, and you got to break those clinches, and sometimes you just got to jump right in there. What do you do physically to keep yourself fit and ready for those big fights?
I do cardio and weight training. I always have, and and the other thing I do that I don't know if any other people do is I got a big martial arts background, so I stretch, and also because of some injuries I received, throughout the time I was working and stuff, I got to stretch or else I'm like two different people, So personally, every day I stretch, and then I'll do cardio 3 times a week and lift 3 times a week, usually take a day off. And before the fights, no question about it, I get myself a lot of rest a day or day and a half before the fight. Obviously, no drinking, no nothing. I treat myself like a fighter. And the day of, just like a fighter, I make sure I get a good night's sleep, stretch out real good, get a really good meal on board, because sometimes, I'll give you a great example. The other day I showed up to the arena at 1:45, and the co-main event didn't go on till 8:30 at night. So if I haven't eaten all day, my blood sugar is going to be low. Your blood sugar is going to be low and you won't perform well. It's like, I got to tell you something funny, man. The symptoms of dehydration mirror a concussion. So if you're dehydrated, you're getting dizzy, you can't concentrate, just like if you were concussed. So I keep myself well hydrated and well fed. And the guys laugh at me like, Ray Corona, Tom Taylor, they'll eat like little birds. We'll go out to lunch and they'll eat like especially Ray, he eats a lot of salads. And I'm sitting there eating steak. I power down steaks before the fights. But it sustains me. So that's what I do.
I had the pleasure and honor of working a few fights with you, and every time I see you, or when you're in there, you still smell fresh. I could smell the gum. I could smell a little bit of the cologne and the freshness. And you just got done doing 10 rounds in there as well as the fighter.
Yeah, I want to be at my best and represent the sport, represent the commission, and represent myself. So I take it very seriously. Like right now, I haven't shaven a couple of days because I got a fight on Friday night, and I'm going to grow a nice little 5-day stubble. And when that comes off, I'm going to be clean shaven and look good when you get in the ring. I mean, I tell this story often, Richie. I think you'll appreciate it. I was a a fireman for 31 years with Los Angeles, city of LA. And what they taught us is you go running up to a burning building and there's a kid inside that house and the mother's outside and you look like junk and you're like got a nose ring and you got tattoos all over your face or whatever, right? She's not going to want to say, go in and get my kid. She's going to run in. Now you got two people to rescue. So we always try to look clean cut and professional and so people will trust you that you take it serious. It's the same thing in the ring. Try to be fit, try to look good, make sure your gig line is straight when you get in that ring, your bow tie is straight, and act professional.
The active gentleman inside of the ring. That I can see. I've always noticed that. It's down to the creases on the sleeves of your shirt. Always a class act.
Thank you.
You know, I see you moving around, and it's like you're inside there. You're taking the punches with them, and you have. A lot of people have said you have the best seat in the house, but yet you have a job to do. You can't even blink the wrong way. If you got an itch, you can't even scratch your arm because you may need to step in there. What determines you to just, when you know a fighter's been hurt or is being close to a stoppage, how much do you want to give? And it could be a champion of the world. How much do you want to give the champion the benefit of the doubt? But at the same time, you're there to protect and serve the fighters.
So that's a great question, and I love this because we're going to educate a bunch of people now. So, we get ringside physicians that start with us. They come out to be ringside physicians, and they're always so anxious, Richard. They're jumping up on the ring apron, all that stuff. And I tell these guys, you're always a physician, but when you're here, you're a ringside physician. You can't prevent a guy from getting hurt. He signs up for this. Our job is to protect them from unnecessary damage when they can no longer intelligently defend themselves. So getting back to what you said earlier, the most important thing a referee could do is be in the moment and totally focus and concentrate for 3 minutes and the 1 minute rest period on the progression of damage a fighter's taken. What I do, and I'm sure the other guys, I hope the other guys do it, is I get a baseline on the fighter. I watch tapes of the fighters when I can, but on a rudimentary level, when I go in the dressing room to give pre-fight instructions, I make the guy get up. I observe what he's like before he's taking a punch. He's supposed to be at his best. He just finished training. He's maybe taken off the last 7 to 8 days of sparring. He's supposed to be in his top shape. I see him move, see what he's got, watch him walk to the ring. When he gets in the ring, I'm watching how he moves around to warm up. That's his best. And then I watch him fall off of that best as he or she is taking damage throughout the rounds. And based upon what I'm seeing, we're going to start considering stopping the fight. And I'm going to give you a great example. I'll give you some insight. So you're going to love this, Richard. People don't understand this, okay? Activity does not mean competitiveness. We have a lot of fights where we call competitive, non-competitive fights. Just because a guy or gal is throwing, but if they got nothing on it and it's all arm punches and they're getting their ass thrashed by good concussive blows, they haven't won a round. I ask myself questions during the round when I'm thinking about getting that person out of there. I ask myself, can that fighter win mathematically? Does that fighter have a real puncher's chance? People say, oh, everybody's got a puncher's chance. Well, if it's the 8th round and he landed his best shot and the other guy walked right through it, he don't have a puncher's chance that night. Then the other thing I ask myself is, does he really want to be there, or is he just fighting to survive? Does he have visible physical damage on his face and body? And then the last question that sums it all up, I ask myself is, what's best for boxing? Do I leave this kid go, try to let him finish, or do I pull him out and save him for another day? And depending upon the situation, a world championship fight, I'm going to take him into deeper water without letting him drown, but it's definitely a consideration because think of the amount of time and years that fighter has to get him to that title fight and what's on the line for him. But also, what about the promoter and the stakeholders who have invested into this fight and put this match together? They don't want it stopped too quick. They want it stopped at the correct time. So it's this balance we have to find, and I use those tools that I mentioned earlier.
Wow, that's 1A right there, brother. I mean, that's some seminar stuff right there. Only on the Fighter's Voice do we have the GOAT And I will say this: the goat has spoken. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz. Ignore that man behind the curtain there. But Jack, I do want to ask you this. I know you have your favorites. I know you look back and as if to say, I'll see Michael Jordan and I said, man, I wish I had those shoes or I wish I could jump that high. Have you ever seen a fight before and you say to yourself, man, I wish I officialed that fight. I wish I refereed that fight.
Well, yeah, going back in time prior to me, I still wish I would have ref Mike Tyson, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, and the whole slew of guys, Larry Holmes. I wish I would have been around in that era because boxing was so special in that era.
Yes, it was.
But boxing is booming right now. It's such an international sport. Look at the champs we have. They're from the Ukraine. They're from Argentina and Mexico and all over the place now. And they love to come to the United States and put on a showcase in places like Vegas, New York, and California. So we're fortunate we get that stuff here. And there's so many guys would have loved to have ref, but unfortunately I was too new in the industry. Man, I would have loved to have ref Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. Oh my God, I would have loved to ref that guy.
Can you imagine if you had Roberto Duran, his fights, I'll just throw it out there against Iran Barkley or Davey Moore or Tommy the Hitman Hearns against James Kitchen or, Dennis Andres when he fought for the light heavyweight championship of the world on ABC, moving up from 160 all the way to 175 because there was no 168 division. And just knowing that you're there, you get to see the body transform as Michael Spinks did as a light heavyweight. Skip cruiserweight went all the way to heavyweight. Evander Holyfield as well. One went from cruiserweight to heavyweight. To see that transition and also you being able to transition as a referee, I mean, it's just, I dream about it, so I know you have visions of that.
Yeah, I watch fights on TV now that I wish I was the ref of. I'm watching my friends, my peers ref, and I'm like, man, I would have loved to ref that fight, but you can't get them all. And the ones you get, you'll get more if you take it real serious and you do a good job in the fight that you're in. And you know what? I want to share this with you too. People think we're there for safety and to enforce the rules. I got my own special type of personal goal. If safety is taken care of, I try to do everything I possibly can to allow that fight to come to a natural conclusion without inserting myself. I don't want to stop a fight too soon. I don't want to take points from a guy. I don't want to disqualify, because if we do any of those things, the focus is on us instead of the fighters, and it's a black eye to boxing. So my style, I don't know if someone would say what kind of style you have, you got to stay the fuck out of the way and let them fight. You know what I mean? Sorry for cursing.
No, hey, this is the fighter's voice, the only voice that matters, Jack. Remember, every fighter has a voice, and so does Jack REISS, and the whole world wants to hear that voice. Now,
that's what I try to do, Richard.
Hey, that sounds fair to me. What is the perfect fight that you officiated? Where you're out of the action? I'm sure the fighters have something to do with that as well.
Well, the best fights I've ever refed is when it was a great, spirited, competitive match that everybody was screaming, and the fight was over, and they said, oh, who refed that? Because I was out of the picture.
When do you step into the picture? And when have you had to say, okay, say we have some big names, and of course, there's a filling out process, and fighters, they do have respect for one another, but as if to say, hey guys, this is a big gate, top tickets have been paid for, the first 4 rounds, you guys aren't even touching each other. You ever say, hey guys, come on, let's mix it up? I mean, what do you tell? How do you motivate them? How do you get the action going?
Well, I do a lot of video watching of other professional sports officials, especially NFL football refs in mic'd up, and NHL hockey refs. And the one thing, and I don't know how to teach this, or I don't know how to express this to other guys, but a good referee will have a feel for the game. So I try to personalize it with the fighters, and I'll talk to them like you and I are talking right now. Like if you're doing something, I'll say, Rich, you got to knock that shit off. And they understand that language because they're talking it to each other, and I'll go into the corners between rounds and give them little cautions one-on-one, out of the eye of the public, so they don't know what I'm saying. But I try to let them know I'm there and let them know what the boundaries are without letting everybody in the audience know that I'm doing that. I like to give very soft, or what I call silent warnings. Like if there was a low blow and it didn't have any effect on the other fighter, I won't stop the action and say, low blow. I won't do that. While I'm breaking him, or I'll just get close to him, I'll say, hey, Rich, watch that a little bit, keep it up, in that tone of voice. So really only you and I heard it, and the other fighter, and maybe the commission or someone sitting ringside. Just little cautions, little corrections to steer them so I can manage this fight so they're fighting each other and not fighting me as well, and they're not getting out of hand. It's a feel for the game. You got to have it.
You know, I'm thinking back. You've seen everything when it comes to a fight. When do you say yourself, come on, man, really? I mean, because you've seen it all. I mean, how do you address it? You know, from spitting out the mouthpiece to the tape being loose, of course, because that happens to be the hurt fighter. When do you say, okay, come on, we're here to fight? How do you correct that? In the same tone of voice, or do you take power of attorney over that action?
No, that's exactly what you say just now is exactly what I'm talking about. Look, inside the ring, there's infractions, misdemeanors, and felonies. And the misdemeanors get the little soft warning, little soft talk that nobody hears. And then when it's a misdemeanor, I got to ramp it up. And if it's a felony, everybody in that arena is going to know that what that guy did was egregious. And I'll tell you, six infractions is a misdemeanor. So I got to ramp it up, and I got to do stuff in the corner to let him and his coach know he's bordering the line of me taking action. And a couple of misdemeanors, you know what I'm saying? It's just like I don't like to jump on people right away, but you got kids. You got kids, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So if the kids are playing in the house and they make noise while you're watching football, you don't jump up and lose your temper, start screaming on the first time. You go, hey guys, I'm trying to watch some football. Maybe you guys want to go to the other room, whatever the first time. And then it's called progressive discipline. And I use progressive discipline in the ring.
Jack, I want to be honest with you. A lot of the questions, I may know slightly the answer, but I ask these for the viewers, the fans, the followers to get educated by the GOAT and only here on The Fighter's Voice. What thrill is next in Jack REISS's life? You've done the big fights, the Hall of Fame, video games. You're in a little doll of Jack REISS. What's next? Is it acting? Is it commercials? When do you fulfill what Jack REISS is supposed to do in this life?
Well, I see the light at the end of the tunnel because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And I'm looking towards maybe getting some other job in boxing. I love being around the fighters and the boxing people like yourself. It's great to go someplace where we all celebrate each other. The people that are really involved celebrate each other. They're happy to see each other, and it's a great fraternity to be part of. Not all the time, but it's a great fraternity, and I like being part of it. So I could see myself in the future either like yourself doing podcasts, but I would really like to get behind the mic and maybe be the rules person for one of the major television or streaming stations, or even a commentator for one of those places if the opportunity presents itself. I'm not ready right now, but I could see that. But if not, I wouldn't even mind just working in boxing, doing something that I can make a difference and help. But what I do want to tell you is I have a professional referee school, and I teach also. I'm a certified boxing referee trainer for the Association of Boxing Commissions. So I travel all over the world doing that already. So I can see myself teaching more and traveling places and stuff and doing it. But also with the class I teach, get that going further because I'll have more time when I'm done with the ring. As far as aspirations for acting and stuff like that, I've been fortunate enough to be in a few movies and television and done commercials and all that stuff. And, I'm not an actor. I always play a referee. So it's not like I know how to act. And those guys, that's a craft that you have to study. And just like refereeing is a craft. So I can't see myself like breaking into film and all of a sudden be the sensation. So it's nothing like that. I'm going to stick to what I'm doing and leave the acting to the great actors.
I see you in a pinstripe suit.
Excuse me?
You do have that look. I can see you in a pinstripe suit and a gangster hat on.
I guess.
Just like you do it inside of the ring. But I will say this: I would love to sit in one of your classes and just get educated there. And there's definitely a future in that. I mean, who would not want to sign up or attend, a class that was conducted by the Hall of Famer Jack REISS? Now, I'm going to put a scenario on you, Jack, because I'm getting questions in like crazy. And I know I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but
This is a great thing to do. Also, I appreciate you doing that, because if we can educate the fans, the sport becomes better, and the fans aren't so boisterous because they'll understand what's going on.
Exactly, because when you were talking about you still want to be on the mic, I want to be honest with you, before I get back on this topic, I already thought of something. I'm going to put some fighters on there. Joe Louis, I may put Pepino Cuevas, I may put Miguel Cotto, and who had the smash? Donovan Razor Ruddock. And I'm saying, who had the best left hook in boxing? Let's get Jack's take. Bring him as a co-host, and we'll talk about who had the best left hook in boxing from any era of boxing. We'll just name maybe 20 fighters and just go to town with it one day. So hold that idea in the future, Mr. Jack REISS. So let me get back on this topic right here.
Sure.
You're fitted. You're ready to go. You got your fight shorts on. Your music is dropping. You're about to enter that ring. Who's your referee? Richard Steele, Joe Cortez, or Mills Lane?
I got to say Mills Lane. Mills Lane didn't get involved in the fights, and in the career that he had, he was very successful. Very few controversies ever surrounded him at all, and you knew what to expect from the guy. And if I try to, let me tell you, I take a piece of all of the three guys you said. I've learned bits from each one of them that I try to emulate in the ring. But I just like Mills' style, and I think I would have related to it more, and that's my choice.
I love Mills, okay, and everybody loves Let's Get It On, but I love that piece where he said, no, he bit his ear, and Tyson says, no, I didn't. He goes, bullshit. Telling him, and
I do that too. I actually do that too, but I'm going to jump to something, and you might think I'm nuts, but if I had the choice to go into a fight and pick a referee today to ref my fight, to let me finish that fight and as well as watch out for my safety, I would pick Big John McCarthy. I don't know if you know Big John from the MMA world, but he's in my opinion, he's the most brilliant sportsman.
Any questions from over here? Yeah, Big John, UFC, MMA.
But him and I have collaborated on some stuff, and we were really good friends. And I would feel comfortable. I would feel extremely comfortable with him as my referee.
No, very well picked, and that's why you did the martial arts. And I've seen Big John leave his feet before when another fighter gets knocked out on his feet, and maybe the bomb is coming. Another fighter's leaving his feet. Big John would leave his feet just to try to get in there and disrupt that extra shot that no fighter does need when they're out already. Being that said, now, if you were to come inside of the ring, we talked about that already, what would be your walkout song for Jack REISS?
I don't have a walkout song. I don't know none of that stuff. I'm not as a fighter. As a fighter, you mean?
Yeah, as a fighter. If you were to get in the ring, no, not as a referee. Let me clean that up. If you were about to enter the ring,
there's a lot of guys who have it, but I love rock and roll. Growing up, not like the '50s rock and roll. I'm talking about hard rock. Like Led Zeppelin and those guys. But Billy Squier's "The Stroke."
Oh yeah,
yeah, like something like that, or some kind of music like that. Real hard guitar hitting stuff to pump me up on the way out to that fight. I listen. It's funny you say that, Richard, because I have day before pre-fight music, and I have day of music when I'm in my hotel showering and shaving and all those things that pumps me up when I'm ready to go to that arena.
I'm glad you answered.
I don't get walkout music, but that's what I do for myself.
Well, you take your job seriously, and sometimes I don't like using the word job, because if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. You take what you do very seriously. There's passion behind it, and you make sure you give it 110% every single time.
I treat myself like a fighter. I fought as an amateur a little bit, very very little bit, but I know what it's like to train. I know what it's like to have the courage to train, feel great, knocking people out and sparring, and then get in the ring with someone else, wondering, wow, if this guy's in great shape like me, this is going to be one hell of a fight. Because it takes courage to get into that ring. But that being said, I treat myself like a fighter. I'm very selfish with my time before the fights. I've been married to a Latina for 39, it'll be 40 years this year. And she loves boxing as well, grew up on boxing. And her and my family understand that, a couple of days before the fight, I'm going into the fight mode. I'm reviewing, I'm doing scenarios, I'm moving around in the backyard. Sometimes I go, if I haven't had a fight in a month, I'll go find a local gym and move around with the fighters while they're sparring, just so my hand-eye coordination and my foot movement, I don't even have to think twice about them. And I can guarantee you about me, I don't know about anybody else, when I step in that ring, from the first second of the first round, I'm ready for a double knockdown and the mouthpiece come out at the same time, and then one guy gets up and hits the other guy while he's down. I mean, I'm ready for anything in the first second. Because like other umpires and referees in football or hockey, they get to skate with the players while they're warming up. They get to run the plays with the football players that are warming up. As a boxing referee, you come from your house into that arena. There's no warm-up fights for you. So I do visualization, and I got a list of scenarios that I've kept over the last 25 years that I roll through. Okay, if this happens, what am I going to do? If this happens, what am I going to do? So your mind doesn't know. You're just imagining it. You're just visualizing it. To your mind, you just did it. So when I walk in, I'm ready to go.
And speaking of ready to go, I'm going to mention our sponsor. We're going to take a small break, and we're going to be ready to go for a small break, and then be coming right back. First of all, I want to thank our sponsor tonight is the one and only, The Fighter's Voice. As right now, our show, we sponsor ourselves. But if you want to join The Fighter's Voice team, you want to become a sponsor, make sure you hit us up here at The Fighter's Voice. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, www.youtube.com/The Fighter's Voice. Remember, every fighter has a voice, and so do you. I'm your host, Richard Ortiz. We're going to take a small break, and we're coming back with the Hall of Famer, Jack REISS.
Hi, I'm Jose Ramirez.
I'm Bob Arum.
Hi, I'm Robert Garcia, and I'm with The Fighter's Voice.
The only radio show knocking out the competition. Fighter's Voice Radio Show.